The text message that arrived at 3:17 a.m. contained 11 words that would haunt Lee Joon for the rest of his life. "Our baby is dead. You killed her. I hope you burn." Lee Joon stared at his phone screen in his darkened office, the glow illuminating his face as rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of his high-rise building in Gangnam. He'd been working late again, drowning himself in contracts and acquisitions, anything to avoid going home to his empty apartment. But now, fully awake, his heart pounding, he scrolled up to see the full message that had preceded those 11 devastating words. "I'm done. I'm done protecting you. I'm done lying for you. I'm done pretending that what you did to me was love. The baby we lost 3 months ago, that wasn't a miscarriage like you told everyone. You know exactly what happened. You remember pushing me against the counter so hard I cracked 2 ribs. You remember locking me in the bathroom for 6 hours because I asked where you'd been all night. You remember telling me I was worthless, that I was lucky you even looked at me, that no one else would ever want someone as pathetic as me. The doctor said the stress caused it. But we both know it was you. Your rage, your fists, your need to control everything, including whether I lived or died. Our daughter is gone because of you, Daniel. I carried her for 4 months, felt her move inside me, dreamed about her future. And you took that from me. You took everything from me. This is the last time you'll ever hear from me. I'm disappearing, and I pray to God you never find me. Goodbye forever." Lee Joon read it 3 times, his blood turning cold, then hot, then cold again. His hands trembled. This wasn't meant for him. Some woman had just poured out the most devastating moment of her life to a complete stranger. To him. And someone named Daniel was out there, probably sleeping soundly, thinking he'd gotten away with it. Lee Joon had built his reputation as one of Seoul's youngest and most ruthless venture capitalists on calculated decisions, on controlling his emotions, on never acting impulsively. At 34, he turned his late father's struggling investment firm into an empire worth billions of won. He'd negotiated with oligarchs, outmaneuvered corporate sharks, and crushed competitors without blinking. But sitting there at 3:17 a.m., reading a stranger's anguish, he made the most reckless decision of his entire life. He was going to find this woman, and then he was going to destroy the man who'd done this to her. His fingers moved across the screen before his rational mind could stop him. "This is Lee Joon. You've reached a wrong number, but I've read what you wrote, and I need you to know something. What happened to you is not your fault. Daniel is responsible for his actions, not you. If you'll allow me, I can help ensure he faces consequences for what he's done." He hit send. 3 minutes passed. 5, 10. Lee Joon sat frozen, staring at his phone, wondering if she'd already blocked him, wondering if he'd just made a terrible mistake inserting himself into someone's private nightmare. Then the 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Who is this? How did you get this number?" Lee Joon typed quickly, aware he had seconds before she cut him off completely. "My name is Lee Joon. I'm a venture capitalist in Seoul. You texted my personal number by mistake, probably 1 digit off from who you intended to reach. I know this is invasive, and I apologize for reading something so personal, but I cannot just delete this message and forget what I read. Please, tell me you're somewhere safe right now." The reply came faster this time. "I'm fine, just delete it and forget you saw anything. It doesn't matter anyway, nothing will change." "It can change everything," Lee Joon wrote back, his jaw clenched. "But only if you're willing to fight. Are you safe? Is he nearby?" A longer pause. "I'm at a friend's place. He doesn't know where she lives, but it doesn't matter. I already tried pressing charges. His family has money and connections. The police dismissed me, said I was being emotional and that my injuries were inconclusive. I'm just another woman whose word means nothing against a man like him." Lee Joon's grip tightened on his phone. He'd heard this story before, too many times. Powerful families, corrupt systems, women whose voices were systematically erased. "What if I told you I have resources that could help you build a case no one can dismiss? What if I told you I have investigators, lawyers, and connections that can bypass the people who failed you?" "Why would you do that? You don't even know me. This isn't your problem." Lee Joon stared at those words, considering how much truth to reveal. Finally, he typed. 3 years ago, my younger sister was in a relationship with someone who hurt her. She tried to leave 4 times. Each time, he convinced her to come back, promised he'd change, that he loved her, that he'd get help. The 5th time, she didn't get a chance to leave. He killed her during an argument, strangled her in their apartment while I was in Tokyo closing a business deal. His hands shook as he continued. Her name was Mina. Every single day since then, I've wondered what would have happened if someone had intervened sooner. If someone had given her real protection, real resources, a way out that didn't depend on a system that failed her. I can't bring Mina back, but maybe I can help you. Please, let me try. The silence stretched so long Lee Joon thought he'd lost her. Then his phone rang, unknown number. He answered on the first ring. Hello. Is this Lee Joon? The voice was female, raw, exhausted, carrying the weight of someone who'd cried until no tears remained. Yes, is this Clara? Clara Kim. She took a shuddering breath. I don't know why I'm calling you. This is insane. You're a complete stranger, and I just told you the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Sometimes it's easier to tell a stranger, Lee Joon said gently. No history, no judgment, no preconceived notions about who you're supposed to be. Or maybe I'm just desperate enough to believe someone might actually help. Her laugh was bitter and broken. Do you know how many times I reported him? 6 times. 6 times I called the police, showed them bruises, showed them medical records, and they sent officers who looked at me. A woman who grew up in no one, who doesn't have family wealth or connections, and decided I was the problem. They told me I was being dramatic, that maybe I should try being a better partner. Lee Joon closed his eyes, rage burning through his chest. Tell me everything, from the beginning. And she did. For the next hour and 20 minutes, Clara Kim told him about Daniel H. Wang. How they'd met 4 years ago when she was working as a graphic designer for a tech startup. How charming he'd been initially, flowers delivered to her office, handwritten notes, elaborate dates. How the charm had slowly curdled into control. How he'd isolated her from friends, convinced her family she was pushing them away, sabotaged her job opportunities until she was financially dependent on him. How the first time he'd hit her, he'd broken down afterward, begged forgiveness, sworn on his mother's grave it would never happen again. How it happened again, and again, and again. I got pregnant 8 months ago, Clara said, her voice fracturing. And for a moment, God, for one stupid, naive moment, I thought maybe it would change things. Maybe becoming a father would make him want to be better. It got worse, Lee Joon guessed, his voice low. So much worse. He accused me of trapping him, said I'd gotten pregnant deliberately to ruin his life, which was insane because I was the one trying to leave. I'd been saving money secretly, planning my escape. She paused, and Lee Joon heard her breathing become ragged. 3 months ago, I told him I was going to stay with my friend for a few days, that I needed space to think. He completely lost control, said I couldn't leave, couldn't take his baby away from him. That's when he... Her voice broke completely. Take your time, Lee Joon said softly. He grabbed me by my throat and slammed me against the kitchen counter. I heard something crack. It turned out to be 2 ribs. Then he shoved me so hard I fell and hit my head on the corner of the dining table. There was so much blood. Lee Joon's free hand clenched into a fist. I woke up in the hospital. My friend had found me unconscious in my apartment and called an ambulance. The doctors told me I'd lost the baby. Placental abruption caused by blunt force trauma. My daughter, because they could tell by then it was a girl, she just stopped living inside me. Clara, I'm so sorry. The hospital staff called the police. I told them everything, showed them my injuries. The doctor documented it all. And you know what happened? Daniel's uncle is a prosecutor. Within 2 hours, Daniel showed up at the hospital with his family's lawyer, claiming I'd fallen during an argument because I was hysterical and unstable. They threatened the hospital with a lawsuit if they reported it as domestic violence. So no charges, no investigation, no justice. Just me with a dead baby and Daniel walking free, telling everyone I'm crazy. Lee Joon's mind was already racing, forming strategies. Clara, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I don't trust anyone anymore. That's fair. Then don't trust me yet. Just give me 72 hours. If I can't show you real progress by then, you can block my number and never speak to me again. But if I can help you get justice for your daughter, will you let me try? Silence hung between them, fragile and heavy. What could you possibly do? Clara asked finally. You're a businessman, not a lawyer or a detective. I'm a businessman with resources. Money, investigators, lawyers who don't back down. Most importantly, I'm someone who learned the hard way that doing nothing is its own form of violence. His voice softened. Let me help you, Clara, please. Another long pause. 72 hours, but Mr. Lee. June, please just call me June. June, I need you to understand something. I'm not some broken victim waiting to be rescued. I'm angry, I'm grieving, and I'm done being polite about it. If you're expecting me to be grateful and docile, you're going to be disappointed. I'm expecting you to be exactly who you are. And from what I've heard so far, that's someone strong enough to survive hell and brave enough to fight back. That's not weakness, Clara. That's power. He heard her breath catch. Okay, 72 hours. The clock starts now. Lee Joon didn't sleep that night. Instead, he made calls. First to Kang Minyu, his head of security, a former National Intelligence Service agent who'd saved Lee Joon's life during a business deal gone wrong in Moscow. Minyu specialized in finding information people desperately wanted hidden. I need everything on Daniel H. Wang, where he works, who he knows, what secrets he's buried. Focus on financial records, communication logs, any complaints filed against him that mysteriously disappeared. How deep? Minyu asked, understanding the unspoken question. How far into legally gray territory? Deep enough to bury him, but clean enough that everything holds up in court. Consider it done. Second call went to attorney Park Seo-yeon, the most aggressive criminal prosecutor-turned-defense attorney in Seoul. She'd represented everyone from chaebols to politicians, with a win record that made prosecutors nervous. Seo-yeon, I need you to take a case pro bono. June, I don't do pro bono, you know that. You'll do this one, domestic violence case. The victim is a woman from a working-class background. The perpetrator is from a wealthy family with prosecutorial connections. Every attempt to press charges has been blocked. Seo-yeon was quiet for a moment. Send me everything you have. If it's as solid as you say, I'm in. Third call went to his college friend, Judge Kim Th-wan, who owed Lee Joon several favors from the years when Lee Joon had quietly funded his campaign for the bench. Th-wan, I need information on Prosecutor H. Wang and his family. Specifically, I need to know if there's a pattern of cases being buried. June, if you're investigating a prosecutor. I'm investigating a pattern of corruption that allowed an abuser to walk free. Are you going to help me or not? Th-wan sighed. Send me the details. Off the record, I've heard whispers about the H. Wang family. Nothing concrete, but enough smoke to suggest fire. Then let's fan those flames. By 6 a.m., Lee Joon had assembled a team. By 9 a.m., they'd started gathering evidence. By 2 p.m., the picture was even uglier than Clara had described. Daniel H. Wang wasn't just an abuser. He was a serial abuser. 4 ex-girlfriends, all with hauntingly similar stories. Charm turning to control. Control turning to violence. Violence followed by threats and intimidation that kept them silent. 3 had filed complaints that were mysteriously withdrawn after visits from Prosecutor H. Wang. 1 had attempted to get a restraining order that was denied despite photographic evidence of her injuries. All 4 had been warned that pursuing charges would ruin their reputations and destroy their futures. Lee Joon's investigators also uncovered financial irregularities. Daniel worked at an investment firm owned by his father's business partner. There were suspicious transactions, evidence of insider trading, potential embezzlement that had been conveniently overlooked. Ammunition, leverage, justice. At 3 p.m., Lee Joon called Clara. I found 4 other women, he said without preamble. 4 women Daniel hurt who were too scared or too unsupported to fight back. With your permission, I'd like to contact them and see if they'd be willing to testify. Clara's voice shook. There are others. Yes, I'm sorry. I know that makes it worse, knowing you weren't the first. Actually, she paused. Actually, it makes me feel less alone, less crazy. If other women saw the same patterns, experienced the same tactics, then it proves I was telling the truth all along. You were always telling the truth, Lee Joon said firmly. The system failed you. The system failed all of you. Contact them. Do whatever you need to do. I want Daniel to face what he's done, all of it. By day 2, Lee Joon had secured signed statements from all 4 women. Attorney Park Seo-yeon had filed a comprehensive criminal complaint with the Supreme Prosecutor's Office, bypassing local jurisdiction entirely. The case included assault and battery, coercion, witness intimidation, and negligent homicide related to the loss of Clara's baby. Daniel H. Wang was arrested at his office on the morning of the 3rd day. News cameras captured him being escorted out in handcuffs, his face red with rage and humiliation. His family tried to intervene. Prosecutor H. Wang called in favors, threatened legal action, attempted to intimidate witnesses. But Lee Joon had made sure the media was watching. Carefully leaked information about the H. Wang family's history of burying complaints ensured that any interference would only make them look worse. Within a week, Prosecutor H. Wang found himself under ethics investigation. Daniel's father's business partner suddenly faced financial audits. The entire corrupt system that had protected Daniel was crumbling. And Lee Joon finally met Clara in person. She'd asked to meet at a cafe in Itaewon, neutral territory, public enough to feel safe. Lee Joon arrived 15 minutes early, ordering an Americano he barely touched while he waited. When she walked in, he recognized her immediately. Clara Kim was petite, maybe 162 centimeters in the low heels she wore with dark jeans. Her hair fell in soft waves around her face, framing sharp cheekbones and eyes that held a bone-deep exhaustion. She wore minimal makeup, just enough to highlight the shadows beneath her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and endless tears. But it was the set of her shoulders, the defiance in her stride as she walked toward him, that made Lee Joon's breath catch. This wasn't a victim. This was a survivor. There was a profound difference. Mr. Lee, she asked, stopping at his table. Joon, please. He stood, offering his hand. And you must be Clara. Her handshake was firm, testing. You're younger than I expected. When you said venture capitalist, I pictured someone older. I started early. Family business. He gestured to the seat across from him. Can I get you something? Coffee? Tea? Green tea with honey, if they have it. While he ordered, Clara settled into her chair, her eyes scanning the cafe with the hypervigilance of someone accustomed to tracking exits and potential threats. Lee Joon noticed, but said nothing, returning with her tea and a sweet red bean pastry she hadn't asked for but accepted with a slight nod. You didn't have to do all this, she said after her first sip. The lawyers, the investigators, getting Daniel arrested, that goes way beyond helping a stranger. It was the right thing to do. People don't usually go this far just because it's right. Her eyes met his, direct and challenging. What do you want, Joon? He appreciated her bluntness. Honestly, I want to sleep at night knowing I did something meaningful with the resources I have. After Mina died, I threw myself into work. Built my company bigger, made more money, acquired more power. But none of it meant anything because I couldn't save the one person who mattered most. So I'm your redemption project. No, you're your own person fighting your own battle. I'm just someone who refused to look away. Lee Joon leaned forward slightly. But I understand if that makes you uncomfortable. If you want me to step back after the trial, just say the word. Clara studied him for a long moment. I spent 4 years with someone who made every kind gesture contingent on my gratitude, my compliance, my surrender. You're telling me I can ask you to leave and you'll just go. Yes. That's either the most respectful thing I've ever heard or the best manipulation tactic. It's respect. You deserve agency, especially after having it stolen for so long. She took another sip of tea, considering. I don't want you to leave, but I need you to understand something. I'm not the woman I was before Daniel. I'm harder now, angrier. I don't trust easily, and I probably never will again. I have nightmares. Panic attacks when someone raises their voice near me. I'm in therapy trying to untangle 4 years of psychological warfare. Okay. That's it, just okay. What else would I say? You survived trauma. You're dealing with the aftermath. That's not a character flaw, Clara. That's evidence of your strength. Her eyes shone with unshed tears. Why are you so different? Maybe I'm not. Maybe you just deserve to be treated like a human being with dignity and autonomy, and that shouldn't feel different. It should be the baseline. Clara wiped her eyes quickly. Okay, since we're doing this, I want to know more about you. Not CEO Lee Joon, just June. Who are you when you're not saving strangers? So he told her. About growing up as the eldest son in a traditional family that expected perfection. About the pressure of inheriting his father's company at 28 after a sudden heart attack. About Mina, who'd been artistic and rebellious and determined to forge her own path. How she'd fallen for a man who seemed charming until he wasn't. How Lee Joon had been too consumed with saving the company to notice the warning signs until it was too late. She called me the night she died, Lee Joon said quietly. Asked me to come get her. Said she was ready to leave him for good. I was in a board meeting. I told her I'd come after it finished, that we'd figure everything out then. He stared at his coffee. She was dead before I even left the office. He beat her so badly the coroner said she wouldn't have survived even with immediate medical intervention. His hands clenched. I was too late. I'll always be too late for her, but maybe I can be on time for other people. Clara reached across the table, her hand covering his. The gesture was tentative, the first time she'd initiated physical contact. Your sister's death wasn't your fault, just like my baby's death wasn't mine. We can't carry responsibility for other people's violence. Intellectually, I know that. Emotionally, he shook his head. It's harder. Yeah, Clara said softly. It really is. They sat in comfortable silence, two people bound by grief and the determination to make something meaningful from loss. So what happens now? Clara asked finally. Daniel's arrested, but I know how this works. His family will hire the best lawyers. They'll drag my name through the mud, make me out to be a liar or a gold digger or whatever narrative lets them paint him as the victim. Let them try. Lee Joon's eyes hardened. We have evidence, medical records, statements from 4 other women, financial crimes that even the best lawyer can't explain away. He leaned forward. And Clara, I don't fight fair. If the H. Wang family wants to come after you, they'll find themselves fighting battles on multiple fronts. I'll make it so expensive, so public, so devastating to their reputation that backing off becomes their only option. That sounds almost scary. Good. Daniel terrorized you for years. It's time he learned what it feels like to be afraid. Clara smiled, and for the first time since they'd met, it reached her eyes. I think I'm going to like having you on my side. The feeling is mutual. The preliminary hearing happened 3 weeks later. Lee Joon sat in the gallery, watching as attorney Park Seo-yeon systematically destroyed every argument the defense presented. Clara testified with quiet strength that made Lee Joon's chest tight with both pride and fury. She detailed every incident, the first slap that came with apologies, the escalating violence, the systematic isolation, the night Daniel had slammed her against the counter and caused her to lose their baby. Medical experts confirmed her injuries were consistent with her testimony. The 4 other women testified about their own experiences, establishing an undeniable pattern of behavior. Daniel's lawyer tried to paint them as vindictive exes coordinating lies. But Seo-yeon had phone records, texts, emails, a digital paper trail proving these women hadn't known each other until Lee Joon's investigators contacted them. The judge ruled there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Daniel was remanded without bail, deemed both a flight risk and a danger to the community. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Clara had agreed to a brief statement. She stood straight-backed and proud as cameras flashed. For 4 years, I believed I was alone, that no one would believe me, that there was no point in fighting because the system was designed to protect men like Daniel H. Wang. But I was wrong. The system failed, but people didn't. And today, I want every woman watching to know your voice matters, your truth matters. There are people willing to fight for you if you're ready to fight for yourself. Lee Joon watched from the edge of the crowd, maintaining distance to let this be her moment. But when she finished and the press scattered, she found him with her eyes and smiled. And in that smile, Lee Joon saw everything that mattered. Resilience, hope, the beginning of healing. 72 hours had turned into 3 weeks. 3 weeks had turned into 2 months. And somewhere in the chaos of legal battles and press conferences, Lee Joon and Clara had become friends. They met for coffee twice a week. Lee Joon brought her books he thought she'd like, poetry by Yun Dongju, novels by Shin Kyung-suk. Clara showed him her artwork, the pieces she created in therapy sessions where she now counseled other domestic violence survivors. They texted throughout the day, sometimes about the case, more often about nothing important. He learned she loved jazz and contemporary dance, that she could make kimchi jjigae that changed his entire understanding of comfort food, that she laughed with her whole body when something genuinely amused her. She learned he was addicted to terrible American reality shows, that he played guitar when he needed to think, that beneath his controlled exterior was someone deeply lonely, still grieving his sister, using work to fill the void where family should be. They were careful with each other, respectful of boundaries. Lee Joon never pushed for more than Clara offered, and she appreciated the space to heal without pressure. But something was growing between them, something neither wanted to name yet, but both felt. It came to a head 4 months after that first text, on the anniversary of Mina's death. Lee Joon had told Clara he needed the day off, that he had personal matters to handle. She respected that without prying. But at 8 p.m., his doorbell rang. He opened it to find Clara holding a bag of Korean fried chicken and a bottle of soju. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," she said simply. Lee Joon felt something crack in his chest. "How did you? You mentioned your sister died in December, and today you look like you're carrying the weight of the world. Doesn't take a genius to connect those dots." She stepped past him into his apartment. "So I'm here. We can eat, drink, talk about her if you want, or sit in silence if that's better. Your choice." They ended up on his balcony overlooking the Han River, sharing food and stories. Lee Joon told her about Mina, not just her death, but her life. Her terrible jokes, her talent for painting, her complete inability to sing despite loving karaoke. How she'd always believed people were inherently good, even when they proved her wrong. "She would have liked you," Lee Joon said as the soju bottle emptied. "She would have admired your strength." "I would have liked her too." Clara pulled her jacket tighter against the December cold. "I'm sorry you lost her, and I'm sorry that my situation brought all that pain back." "Don't apologize. Meeting you, helping you, it's given me something I didn't have before. Purpose beyond profit. A reason to use my resources for something that matters. You matter too, you know. Not just what you can do for other people. You, Lee Joon, as a person, you matter." The words hit him harder than they should have. When was the last time someone had said that to him? Valued him as a human rather than a walking bank account or business connection. "Thank you," he said quietly. They fell silent, watching the city lights reflect on the dark water of the river. "I'm scared," Clara admitted suddenly. "Of what?" "Of this, of you, of feeling something again after I swore I was done with relationships forever." She turned to look at him, vulnerability stark on her face. "I have feelings for you, Joon, real ones, and it terrifies me because what if I'm wrong again? What if you turn out to be another Daniel hiding behind a better mask?" Lee Joon's heart hammered, but he kept his voice steady. "I can't prove I'm not. All I can do is show you through actions over time. But Clara, I need you to know, I have feelings for you too. And I'm scared as hell because I don't want to be another source of pain in your life. I don't want to push too hard or move too fast or do anything that makes you feel unsafe. So what do? We're honest, we go slow, we communicate. He reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. And we trust that two broken people can maybe help each other heal. Clara squeezed his hand. I'm not ready for grand gestures or declarations, but maybe we could try dating. Real dating, where we figure out if this is real or just trauma bonding. I would like that very much. She leaned her head on his shoulder, a gesture of trust that meant more than any kiss. Okay then, let's try. And sitting there under the December stars, mourning the sister he'd lost while holding the hand of the woman he was falling for, Lee Joon understood something profound. Sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call. Sometimes tragedy creates connection. Sometimes broken people don't need fixing. They just need someone willing to sit with them in the darkness until dawn breaks. The trial was scheduled for February. Daniel's lawyers kept trying to delay, but attorney Park Seo-yeon was relentless. The case moved forward despite every obstacle the H-Wang family threw up. Lee Joon and Clara's relationship grew carefully, slowly. First dates that felt like interviews as they learned each other's triggers and boundaries. Conversations about trauma and healing. Therapy sessions they sometimes attended together to ensure they were building something healthy, not just clinging to each other out of shared pain. The attraction was undeniable, but they both understood. Rushing toward physical intimacy before emotional safety was established would poison everything they were building. And they were building something real, something worth protecting, something that had started with a wrong number at 3:17 a.m. and evolved into the rightest thing in both their lives. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Daniel H. Wang was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 8 years in prison. The H. Wang family's reputation crumbled. Prosecutor H. Wang was forced to resign. Several corrupt officials who'd helped bury complaints were investigated and removed from their positions. But more importantly, 4 women who'd been silenced finally had their voices heard, their stories believed, their pain validated. And Clara Kim, who'd once thought she'd never escape, who'd lost a daughter and nearly lost herself, stood in that courtroom and watched justice finally prevail. Outside the courthouse, after the verdict was read, Clara turned to Lee Joon. Thank you, she said simply, for not deleting that text, for choosing to care about a stranger, for giving me back my voice. You never lost your voice, Lee Joon replied, taking her hand. You just needed someone to finally listen. She smiled, that full, genuine smile that still made his heart skip, and kissed him softly. I love you, Lee Joon. I love you too, Clara Kim. And standing there on the courthouse steps, surrounded by reporters and supporters and the promise of a better future, they both understood that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the darkest moments. Sometimes a wrong number changes everything. Sometimes broken hearts can heal together. Sometimes justice prevails. And sometimes, just sometimes, love finds a way. If this story moved you, if Clara and Lee Joon's journey resonated with your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and whether you believe in second chances, for survivors to find justice, for broken people to find love, for wrong numbers to become right connections. Your engagement helps us continue sharing stories that matter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next upload.